Another clap and another podcast episode, and this time I've been told get closer to the camera, look more beautiful, and don't scare the guests off.
Yep.
So we're here, back and we need to talk to Chris about these chairs. I mean, if he's going to have us sitting on a stage for half a day, we want some comfortable chairs, not these hard plastic things. It's okay for you. You've got 15 minutes.
15 minutes I can manage.
Exactly, yes.
We're going to do a chiropractic treatment after this. But,
exactly, yes. But that's
is
okay.
Is that part of the program for the podcasters? Some massage in between? No?
Should be.
It's over time we build the correct posture for sitting down
close
for
to
a
the
very
microphone
long,
as well.
close to the microphone, yes. But anyway, we are diverging away from the important stuff here. You've joined us. There was a little bit of a hiccup, but we've got you here, which is fantastic. Who are you, and what company do you represent, and what do you do?
It's a great pleasure to be here, actually. Thanks for having the opportunity. So I represent SME Bank. My name is Thorsten. SME Bank is a still small but growing digital bank for, as the name gives it away, deadly SMEs. Coming out of Lithuania, but with Europe in its heart. So we have big ambitions to build really the digital challenger bank for SMEs all across Europe. When we talk about SMEs, also we talk about established SMEs. So it's not like micro companies, a man in his stock, but really go after established SMEs, companies that turn over somewhere between 1 million to 50 million euros, have 10 to 250 employees. So proper businesses that in our mind, as of today, are not benefiting from that digital revolution that we have seen on the retail side, mainly over the past decade. And our hypothesis is that the last decade was really a B2C revolution, and the next decade, starting from 2020 really into 2030, is going to be the B2B revolution. We want to be a leading part of that.
So we've in our podcast we've had several guests talking about the same thing, which is the fact that the SME segment specifically is very underserved.
Yes.
Traditionally by the traditional kind of incumbent banks, I would say. Now, what are the things you do better than the traditional banks, and why do you think that those are the winning propositions to actually win and win the hearts and minds of these SMEs?
As a starting point, our bank is purpose-built for SMEs, and I think this is already a huge difference. So I spent the earlier part of my career, 10 years in large corporate banks in the UK, working always on the SME space, and every 3 to 4 years I was part of a program where we moved the SME business from the retail bank to the corporate bank, and a few years later we moved it back. And in the end, the SME customer is always the guy in the middle, right? And what they have is a set of products that are either badly adopted retail products or badly adopted corporate products. But there's never anything purpose-built. And if you look at the boards and the leadership teams of the large banking organizations, mainly across Europe, there's people who've either got retail banking experience or corporate banking experience on the board. But point out to me anybody where you see there's somebody who's really got SME as an experience. And I think this is already the first part of it. So we're building purposely for SMEs. Yeah. The company has been founded by two Lithuanian entrepreneurs, one of them being a serial entrepreneur, and he's our customer in the room, right? Like in the boardroom. We don't have to put a puppet on a chair somewhere to say this is our customer. We've actually got a guy who built businesses as a founder, and he's saying we want to build this business in such a way, this bank in such a way, as I would have wanted my bank to be when I was growing my other businesses. So being purpose-built, having specific products and real focus. We don't do anything else. We don't do large corp. We don't do retail. We only do SME. And I think this focus already sets us apart from the others.
There is an expansive, big growth in the SME space from banks. And like you said, a lot of the traditional banks are trying to figure out how they can fit into this space. But what do you see as being really differentiating from the Revoluts and all the others that are also trying to get into this space? I feel like that there has to be something more than just the banking.
Yeah, there has to be, right? And if you think about how do we differentiate ourselves from a lot of the companies that are serving the micro SMEs, and they serve them very well, I have to say. And here the magic word is lending. Working capital is really the part. If you look at the Contos, the Revoluts of this world, right, they don't have this lending experience. We come from a company, so the founders previously built another business that was a non-bank lender. It's one of the top 3 in Europe. Actually, it's done more than 3 billion euros of loan origination to SMEs. So we know lending very well. And if you have a business that wants to grow, working capital really becomes the lifeblood of your business. So we start our relationship with the companies often from a lending perspective, and then we grow into a broader banking perspective. Now, as a lender, because we're not a large bank, we're not cheaper, so it's not going in with a cheaper offering, but with a purpose-built offering again, where the SME can get an answer on their loan requests in minutes or hours or days, as opposed to weeks or months. So taking the headache away out of the financing, saying, yeah, no worries, you need €500,000 working capital, you look good for it, you can have it. 24 hours later, you know that you have it. Everything is signed digitally, everything is done digitally, no need to go to a branch, meet a relationship manager, blah, blah, blah. And then we gradually win the banking services over from them because they realize, oh, what these guys have built is better than what my incumbent has. We also know that you cannot go in and say, oh, we're going to go in and we've built a UX that looks a little bit nicer and therefore the SME is going to change their banking. That is never going to happen, right? You need to have a good hook product. You need to have a reason why they come to you. You need to enforce this a little bit as well, but then you can win share of wallet gradually.
Yeah. Okay. So working capital lending, basically, that's the kind of the core of what you provide for the SMEs as the basis. But then you do everything on top of that. Now, one interesting part of the kind of SMEs day-to-day life is to get paid. So, I mean, getting the money in one way or another. Do you do merchant acquiring, for example, and how do you integrate to the collection systems?
Paying and get paid is seriously most important for a company. That's very true. So far, we don't have merchant acquiring yet. That's something that we want to either build or partner in the future. I mean, for me, the concept of the bank also has to evolve from what the bank has historically been, where everything was done in-house. And in our space, it's really about, we think, what do we need to do in-house? What do we need to do best in class for ourselves? And in our case, this is a lot of the credit journey. And where do we actually want to work with best-in-class partners? So on the merchant acquiring side, I would rather say, especially initially while we're still small, I'd rather partner with somebody that does that really well in the market. And then go later. But as of today, that's one of the products that we don't offer yet.
All right.
There's another element to this seen from an SME space, and that is a lot of SMEs don't want their banks just to be banks. They want them to be their CFO. They need the advice, they need the guidance, they need that support. Is that something you offer as well as being so focused on the SME space?
Yeah, absolutely, right. And the advice part is so important. And we've seen this especially in the UK, I think, where I've spent a lot of my career, where everything has moved to execution only and non-advice based because people are really afraid to give advice because they could be legally liable. And I think it's gone too far. So especially on the SME customer space, if you think about an SME customer, right, like these are people, these are entrepreneurs, they're really good in what they're doing, but they don't know much about financial services and they don't have a CFO, they don't have a large team that deals with finance for them. So they're the guy who's there, like rabbit in the headlights, and needs to make some sort of decisions. So I think it's the job of the bank to actually provide better and better services for them. Do I believe that we've cracked that completely today? Not yet, but are we on the journey to get there? Definitely. And I think this is a fantastic example also where AI is going to play and large language models are going to play a good role because you can actually build much better CFO in a box type models than ever before. And you can deliver those at scale to SMEs as well, as opposed to having thousands of relationship managers, right? I mean, the traditional service of a relationship manager, in my mind, is a guy that comes to your office once a year, has tea and biscuits, provides no value, and then goes again, and next year there's another guy coming that you have never met before, and you start from scratch. That is not what we want to build for our customers. The idea is how we can build a digital relationship manager services where there's digital tools that have all of the history and the memory of you. However, where there's always a human in the loop as well. Right? And we know that SME owners do not want to speak to robots only. They don't want to have chat only. They want to have a person with a mobile number that they can call when things are going wrong. Yeah. Right? If my personal account is frozen, or if my secondary personal account is frozen for a week or two and I can't get hold of it, I can still live my life. If my business account is frozen, my business is over, right? Like 2 weeks, I can't access my money, I can't pay, I can't get paid, my business is dead. So we can never have that. So there's always a person with a mobile number that they can call and scream and shout at and that can actually solve their problems. But that person needs to be digitally enabled. They cannot just be a guy with a tablet that doesn't connect to anything.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you want to scale inside Europe at least, so you're going to try to passport your banking license into other markets. That brings up the question of localization. So, for example, whenever a bank goes into a new country with a license, there's going to be the questions of, am I going to have a local IBAN? Am I able to connect to the national collection mechanisms, whatever they are, e-invoicing and direct debits and so forth? How do you see this localization journey, and is that going to be a hurdle for you moving forward?
Yeah, we're already operating in 5 countries as of today, so the 3 Baltic states, then Finland and the Netherlands. And we are on this journey, right? I mean, you are absolutely right. There's so many nooks and crannies that are different country by country, so you have to have localization, and in my mind you also have to have local teams. So it's not possible that you do everything out of one country. So the core of our business and the majority of people are based in Lithuania. However, we have people that are at the customer and working with the customer in each of our markets. So I have people here in Riga, I have people in Tallinn, in Helsinki, and in Amsterdam.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to IBANs, I think this is especially important. And their passporting isn't enough, right? Because if you passport, you keep your local IBAN. And in order to get a local IBAN, you need to set up a branch, which brings a lot more regulatory burden with you. So on our side, we have decided that that's a three-stage journey really that we want to go along on. And then the first step into a new country is always on the lending side, because on the lending side, you don't need to worry too much about the IBAN. If I give you a loan account with a Lithuanian IBAN, you don't care, because it's just internal for your own business. Once it starts getting paid by your customers, you want to have the local ones. So we say, okay, let's grow the country to a certain state, to a certain size. When it's big enough, then we will invest a little bit more, get the local oversight as well, get the local IBAN, and start growing then the day-to-day banking services from there on.
We unfortunately have run out of time.
That was fast.
Yes, it is true speed dating going on here, and we've got another guest lined up, and I really don't want to eat into their time.
No
but
problem.
As you leave, is there any final words that you want everybody here to remember about
SME Bank.
SME Bank?
Well, keep an eye out for us. If you have a SME in one of those countries that I've mentioned, Baltic states, Finland, or Netherlands, you're looking for a second bank or a new bank, please come and find us. And anybody who is looking at the industry, keep an eye out for us, because we hope and we believe and dream that we will be the digital player for Europe. Thank you for having me today.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.